Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Bryce Way, lifestyle travel photographer and filmmaker. Please enjoy Bryce Way. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today, I'm here with Bryce Way, lifestyle travel photographer and filmmaker. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how we doing, guys? It's great to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here to chat about creativity and all of the ways creativity shows up in your life. But before we get into that, why don't you take a couple of minutes and just let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
For sure, yeah. I am again, travel lifestyle photographer and filmmaker. So I kind of go all around the world and country, working with brands and companies, kind of creating marketing material for them, whether it's a product, a car, person. We kind of tell a story through a scene. And again, photography, videography, kind of the demands are different every time, but I'm about 50-50 on each. And it's been an awesome experience. This year's been packed. Just going nonstop, but it's been great.
That's awesome. How did you get into this industry and this field? Did you go to school for it, or did you kind of fall into it? Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
I kind of fell into it. Again, I've always been into this craft. I was very, very young, and I kind of just knew what I wanted to do growing up. And right after, even through high school, I was still doing work, but right after high school, I just went full time, and that's been it ever since.
Very cool. And you said you've been doing it for a really long
Mhm.
time, and even as a child, was there someone who was like in your family who did it that you saw, oh, like this could be a career or I'm interested in, or is this something completely that came right out of you?
Yeah, it kind of just came out of me. I mean, so my mom had a camcorder that she just had to film us, as kids, and
Yeah.
then my dad here and there had a camera that he would shoot for just for like a company camera if he needed to shoot stuff. And I just took that stuff one day, and it was just kind of going at it, creating stuff around my yard, and it kind of just picked up here and there as I, grew older, and that's just kind of what I fell into loving.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that it really, really came from inside of you
absolutely,
to
yeah.
really take off.
Mhm.
Well, I'm curious, when you think about creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's taking an idea that you have in your mind and, executing that idea, whether it's physical, like, a painting, or like for me, photography, and, capturing that from your mind to your photo, then sharing that with everyone to as like an expression. A lot of photographies can be what you kind of are like a mood in a way that, you create what you're feeling.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is something that really I'm in resonance with a lot of people. They look at art and they're like, wow, I kind of, could feel something. So for me, it's photography, and I love just sharing my art with on Instagram and throughout, every social media outlook.
Yeah. And so I mean, I know there are many different forms of
Mhm.
photography, daytime, landscape, night
Yes.
photography. It's all
Yep.
very different. What is your, like, what part of photography really captures your love and your heart?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love one landscape photography, and then I incorporate that into a story. So I travel so much, and I kind of just almost fell into landscape too. I'm like, I'm just always capturing these new scenes, this new landscape, these mountains. I'm like, this is amazing. So, like I said earlier, I'll bring a subject into that and tell a story, whether it's a car, product, something like that.
Nice. What are some of the favorite places you've been able to visit and
Yeah.
those landscapes that like really speak to your soul?
Absolutely. I was recently in Iceland, and I would say that one so far this year has been my favorite. That
Mm.
was an incredible location with just the environments changing the further you go into the country and getting, crazier and crazier. And it's like a creative sandbox. You can just have a field day there. It was an
Oh my
awesome,
gosh.
awesome country.
Ah, that sounds amazing. I've never
Yeah.
been. I would love to go.
Oh, highly
And
recommend it.
I see pictures that people have taken of Iceland and I'm always blown
Yeah.
away by it. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. Now, uh, ha- seeing as how you started so young and kind of knew what you wanted to do,
Right.
what are some of the challenges that have kind of come up along the way that you've had to navigate? And then how do you navigate those challenges?
Yeah, so like when I create or when I face creative challenges, I really like to kind of just step back from it a little bit and look at what I'm dealing with. And a big thing for me is I'm very collaborative and I kind of seek others for inspiration or like feedback, like, hey, what should I do here? So I'll definitely take away, step back from the camera, go to others like, hey, how should I proceed with this? And then maybe a couple days later come back to it at like a new perspective.
Yeah.
um Having others look at things through like a different eye is really helpful for me.
Yeah. How do you build that community of others that you go to
Absolutely.
ask
I
their
know it takes a long time, and for me, like, again, starting out through social media, there's so many creatives out there, and you end up following them and commenting, and then you're DMing on Instagram, messaging each other. And the moment I travel so much, I'm like, hey, I'm in your city. Would you want to go get coffee or you want to go shoot a sunset? And that's kind of how we just build a relationship. And over the years, it's just I have a lot of people just throughout the country that I know.
I love it. And so, kind of coming up in the industry of lifestyle travel photography and
Mhm.
filmmaking, what was that like for you? I mean, because it is a large industry.
Yeah, no, it's big. It's big. Yeah. It's all based off your network type of a thing. So who you know is who kind of can bring you work. So I like to like it's cool because like if I'm doing well, my friends are doing well, and if they're doing well, I'm doing well because we can get each other on jobs.
Mhm.
So coming up, like it kind of shifts into like now again everything is social media. So brand work is massive and everyone loves like reels and stuff like that, a little more on the short form side of things.
Mhm.
But again, it changes all the time, so you kind of just have to be able to adapt very quickly to what's going on the media side.
Yeah. And what do you feel like helps you adapt so quickly to new
Yeah.
trends or new ideas or able to take that and run with it?
I don't know, I feel like I'm a quick learner with a lot of things, and I've always been that way. So I
Mhm.
could kind of just look at things, I'm like, oh, this is where we're heading. And then
Mm.
I don't like to follow trends in necessarily. I do like to kind of set them in a way, but here and there, if a brand is like, hey, we kind of want to do this, I'm like, yeah, let's hop on this now because it's going to go up. So I would just say like I'm very observant, so watching things just comes very natural to me and picking up on stuff like that.
Mm. Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, you talked a little bit about being really young, starting with a camcorder and a camera,
Mhm.
but what's your earliest memory of being creative?
Yeah, I would probably say my earliest is when I was 10,
Mm.
and I was editing at the time in iMovie, very old software back then, and I, just running around my yard, camcorder, and I made like a movie trailer. They had
Mm.
these kind of like tutorials in a way that brings in the title card and stuff like that. So running around my yard, creating the script, shooting the scene, and looking back on it now for 10 years old, it's incredible. Like I was like, this is pretty good for a 10-year-old. It's pretty funny. I'm like, yeah, it was called the Super Spy.
Oh, I love it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, amazing.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Did it like have another life or was it just a trailer?
It was a trailer, but then like me and my friends, I'd start bringing in friends, and we'd make like Super Spy 2, and it was a movie, and it would go through. I think there's like six of them,
Oh my
but it
gosh,
was
that's
just that. But yeah, yeah,
awesome.
I'm bringing everyone. I was like, hey, let's do this.
That is
Yeah,
so great. So it sounds like you come from a family who's pretty supportive
yeah.
in that world of
Mhm.
creativity and expression. What were some of the like most supportive things your parents or friends or family did to help you kind of launch into this
Yeah,
path?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my family was again, parents, mom and dad were very supportive of me, and they made sure that like if I knew what I wanted to do, so they would help me get further. So like for high school, they were able to get me in a magnet school, which was really cool. So a lot of those classes were based on photography, editing, stuff like that. And then they knew that like, hey, I don't want to go to college. This is what I want to do. So they were like, all right, do it. My dad runs a business too, so he was able to kind of help point me in like the entrepreneurship way of like navigating that space and
Yeah.
just so many tips that I can always go to them and they have answers. So it was supported from day one, which is great.
That's awesome. Not everyone has that, so
I know.
lucky to
I'm very blessed and grateful.
have that experience. I'm curious, this new book that is coming out that you
Mhm.
are a part of, how did all of that come about? How did you get into it? And tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think last April of 2023, the Gallery of Trope reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, we're every year we release a book of a new city. This year it's Los Angeles, and I'm always in Los Angeles taking photos, doing a lot of projects there." And they were really interested in my work, and they kind of pulled me, and we've been, talking through a couple months about this book. So I was able to get a lot of my photos featured throughout this Los Angeles book, which has been awesome. And they pulled, I believe it was 19 photographers around the country that were able to also have their photos featured. And it's cool because I know a lot of them as well. So it's like, oh, no, you're also in the book. So it's been cool. And it's coming out this month, which is great. So everyone's going to be able to get their hands on it. But it's awesome to have something, physical that,
Yeah.
your photos, it's a physical piece looking at it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. But it sounds like it took like a year.
Yeah, it was a long time. It was a long
Yeah.
time to get this going. And people don't realize how much time and effort goes into we send our photos and stuff, but then they got to edit it. And, if the color on this looks way too dark, we'll go back and we'll adjust it so it prints well. So there's a lot of editing and just the little details to get it perfect.
Yeah. So how do you stay kind of in that, I don't know, creative space when someone else is like making adjustments
I
and
know. Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm always in that mindset, that creative space. I don't. It's just one thing after the other in terms of like where I'm going and traveling. So I always like to just fill my mind and keep it. You kind of got to like work out. Like you're building muscle, you're building out creativity. So I always like to
yeah.
stay inspired. Like Instagram's scrolling is people are like, oh, the doom scrolling, but like I use it to find inspiration and see others work and always just in that environment learning.
Yeah, what about off the phone? Where do you draw like inspiration, or are there people or places like who or what
Yeah.
inspires you?
Yeah, a lot of my colleagues and friends that have work, and when I'm with them, just not even, again, not being on my phone, just watching them is just like a big inspiration of how they do things because it's completely different from how I might do something. And even, again, I'm a big film guy and film industry, so watching movies too, I'm
Mm.
like, I'll kind of mentally learn as they're filming and take notes on how I would do things, as well in my work. So it's just everywhere I'm out, just in nature too. I can like look at something, frame it up, be like, oh man, I want to come back here with my camera. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for people who maybe struggle to have a creative voice or hold on to creativity in their life, how would you encourage them to find that creativity?
Yeah, I think really just whatever you're kind of interested in, not it doesn't have to be photography, but just experiment. If you have a hobby or an interest, just kind of lean into that a little and just see where it goes. You know, um, you can really just like find what you love and do it as like a living
Mm.
just based off of what your hobby is, which is kind of what I did.
Hmm.
And again, just seek others for inspiration and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, having a hobby turn into a career,
Mhm.
did it lose any of the like joy? Or I know for a lot of people, when their creative expression becomes a career,
Yep.
things can shift. So I'm curious, did anything
Yeah.
shift for you? And if
Yeah,
so, what?
I know. So nothing, I wouldn't say it majorly shifted, but there are times that I just want to keep my camera, at the hotel or wherever and not bring it because it's always on me.
Hmm.
So there is times I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy the moment, just be with others, my family, my friends,
Hmm.
and not have the camera on me. Because when when you're shooting, you're in the moment, but you're also focused on the photo
Right.
rather than what's going on. So at some points, I'm like, I don't want to deal with that right now, you know?
Yeah, so like really setting those boundaries for
Exactly.
yourself.
Yeah.
Do you find that it like comes in waves, or is this something that you're like, okay, at least once a day, I'm going to do something that I don't have my camera on me for?
I would say it's when it's kind of like situational when I know I'm with a lot of people or I really am just with my family and want to have that time. I'll just
Mhm.
like, I'll set it down, and just let it be. There's times even, when I was in Iceland, I'm like, I just want to enjoy Iceland, right? And just, I'm
Yeah.
going to leave this in the car and just do a hike. So I think it's just like, it's a built up of, if I'm doing it like 6 days a week, I'm going to have a break here, you know?
Yeah, nice. Do
Yeah.
you ever run into like people who know you, family, friends that
Hmm.
are like, "Oh, can you just do that?" Like, and not take advantage of your photography
Hmm.
experience, but ask you to do things that they might not ask someone else because of the skill that you have.
Um, not. I mean, I feel like a lot of my family know they value me, in terms of what I offer. So I feel like no one really takes advantage of that. I know people that like again shoot weddings, and that's a big one because then everyone in their family is getting married. And like, hey, can you shoot our wedding? They have no idea. You got to shoot it and then edit it for 20 to 30 hours.
Right.
So that could be tough, but I'm lucky to be in a situation that everyone kind of knows how, I'm very busy and if they are like, hey, can you take a photo? I'm like, absolutely. I'm gonna do it. And
Yeah.
it's no problem. But I know it's different for everyone for sure. But I do find some people that, especially in LA, that would recognize because a lot of my stuff is California that
Yeah.
would recognize me. But other than that, no.
Yeah. So what are the things in your like day-to-day life that bring you joy?
Goodness. Yeah. A lot of my day to day is just photography, editing, and then like traveling. So
Mhm.
it's hard. The biggest thing in my joy is the morning cup of coffee. That first sip, it's the biggest. I love a good sunset. That's great. Just, very peaceful. A lot of the times too, I know I post a lot of sunset, but I'll just enjoy it. Have that
Mhm.
30 minutes of just like peaceful. Um, and I also love driving too. So just going for a drive is a great way to bring me joy.
Nice. I love all of those. Oh my gosh, this has been so fantastic. Thank you for taking the
Of
time to
course,
chat
yeah,
with me. I just
absolutely.
have one last
Yeah.
question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Hmm. It definitely motivates me and drives me to just, always learn and grow, to have new ideas and, not be a part of everyone else. I really just like to stand out and be kind of my own, have your own style, be your own person, photographer that doesn't, that sets the trends, right? That doesn't follow them. So I would say that.
Nice. Well, thank you again for taking the
Yeah,
time to chat with
absolutely.
me. If people want to learn more about your work, where can they find it? And let us know where we can get the book.
Sure, yeah. So I'm the most active on Instagram. My handle is bryce.way. And then you could find my website. It's brycepway.com. The book, you could find that at Trope's website. If you just type Trope Los Angeles online, you'll be able to find that. Also Instagram as well.
Awesome. Well, I will put links in show notes so people have easy access. And thanks so much, Bryce, for taking the time to chat with me. It has been such a treat.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.